Building an AR, especially your first AR, can be a daunting task. An AR isn't one specific rifle any more than a semi-automatic handgun is one specific pistol. There are both large families of firearms, each capable of specific tasks. To give an example, people use precision ARs to shoot matches out beyond 1,000 yards. At the same time, other people use .22 long rifle caliber ARs to plink at soda cans in the backyard. Where they're both technically ARs, they're very different rifles, made of very different components, capable of very different tasks, and costing vastly different amounts of money. So while you can make an AR that can do anything, you can't make one single AR that can do everything. The first step to planning an AR build is to be honest with yourself on the use of that AR and to be realistic in the expectations of what you can get out of one single rifle. Proper planning will save time, save money, save you a lot of frustration, and ensure that the rifle that is ultimately built better suits the purpose you're going to be using it for. In the end, you'll be more satisfied with the build. Just to give you an example of the vastly different components, you can buy simple AR uppers and lowers for as low as $50 a piece. At the same time, you can buy matched receiver sets that can cost $1,000. That 10x difference in cost applies to a lot of things. For example, you can get a regular buttstock for around $25 to $30. You can buy a Magpul PRS buttstock for closer to $300. It applies to triggers. You can buy a factory trigger for around $30, or you can buy a finely tuned precision Geisley trigger for upwards of $300. It applies to the barrels. You can get a rack grade barrel for about $100, or you can get a custom barrel chambered by a gunsmith made from a Bartlein blank, costing $800 to $1,000. So with those differences in prices, you want to make sure that you think out well what you're going to use it for and get the type of component that suits your need well. You wouldn't want to pair a $800 to $900 Bartlein barrel with a factory trigger. You probably won't get all the precision you want out of that barrel. Similarly, you wouldn't put it on a $50 upper and lower combination. They're probably not going to be as precise as that barrel is capable of. It would be similar to having a Corvette and putting 6-inch wide economy tires on it. The tires are going to be the weak link, and you won't get any of the handling characteristics or performance out of the car. You want to look at the build the same way. You want all the components to be paired together such that there's not one single weak link. You didn't overpay for something where something else was holding you back. You have everything matched nicely such that they all perform at the level you would like. That's how you save time, and that's how you save money. I wanted to go over some tips for how to plan for that AR. With proper planning, you can save time getting the right components first, money because you're getting the components that will help you achieve your goals, and in the end you'll be more satisfied with the outcome of the build. With ARs, the sky is really the limit. You can buy top-end components and spend thousands of dollars, or you can do it for just a couple hundred by being a little more frugal. Keep in mind that how much you pay and the quality of the components you buy will also determine the quality of the final firearm you wind up with. And you really want to plan out that build carefully to make sure you get the right components the first time, rather than winding up something that doesn't meet your expectations, that you overpaid for, that you didn't pair the components as well as you could have, so one or two things are limiting the entire function of the system. You can go from very high-end match upper receivers, custom barrels, to kind of a basic middle-of-the-road couple $100 AR. With ARs, the sky's the limit. You can wind up spending thousands of dollars if you want to buy the top end of everything, or for a couple $100 you can get a very functional, reliable AR. The first step in planning a build is to understand what you're going to be using that gun for. You want to be realistic in your expectations. Are you going to be shooting beyond 500 yards, beyond 700 yards, out to 1,000 yards? Are you really restricted? You're only going to be shooting to 100 yards? Or you want something smaller, just to kind of plink around at 10, 15, 25 yards, like this .22 long rifle AR. There's a lot of caliber choices. First thing you want to do is choose a caliber based on your application. If you're going to be hunting, there might be caliber limits where you need to be above, say, a 25 caliber to shoot large game. If you're shooting indoors, you might be limited to rimfire or pistol caliber cartridges. If you want a general all-around AR, maybe you want a 5.56 or 2.23 Remington. Or maybe you want to go up to a large caliber AR and shoot precision. Good general round, 308, little more precision, higher velocity, better ballistics, 6.5 Creedmoor. So there's a lot of options for calibers, and that's really where you want to start. You also want to consider your ammo expectations. Are you going to be reloading where the ammo would be particularly expensive if you bought it off the shelf, perhaps not even available? Or if you plan on stockpiling a lot of ammo, maybe you want to go with 5.56 as opposed to, say, something like 50 Beowulf, which might be $2 to $5 a round. So think about your application, your ballistics on target. If you're going to shoot long range, you want a high velocity, good ballistic projectile, like maybe a 6.5 Creedmoor, or maybe you just want a 22 long rifle for plinking. The AR platform can be used for any number of many calibers. I suggest you download one of the free ballistic apps, look at some of the different types of ammo, look at their performance at the range you're going to shoot, and start by picking a caliber. So once you have your caliber chosen, that's going to dictate some parameters, like the frame size. Is it going to be a small frame AR or AR-10 size frame? Is it going to be a regular 16.5-inch barrel, or is it going to be a longer 22-inch barrel? But ultimately, you want to think about what you're going to be doing with that firearm. You also want to think early on about the type of optic you're going to get. You're going to get an unmagnified red dot or holographic sight. You can get a low power variable, maybe a fixed power larger scope, or a high magnification variable optic. So you pick the caliber, you think about the optic you're going to want to get, and then you pair it to the AR. Probably not going to put a high power variable magnification expensive optic on, say, a 22 caliber AR. It would be overkill for that setup. Similarly, I'm not going to get a high velocity, high BC long range cartridge and put a red dot on it. So early on, you want to think about your application, the calibers that work well for that application, and the different optics you're going to be putting on that firearm, and put all those things together. So a 22 caliber AR might pair nicely with a low power variable scope. This is a 1:4 with a lit reticle. So on the 1 power, it works very much like a red dot. On the 4 power, you can see very well out to 100 yards, which is a good range. It's closer to the maximum range that you might use a 22 long rifle for. You might have a pistol caliber, like 9mm, or a centerfire rifle caliber, like a 2.23 Remington, and pair that with, say, a red dot in a short barrel configuration for shooting, 25 to 400 yards. You might pair it with a fixed power 10 optic if you're shooting out a little further and you want something a little more precision. And you might want a high power optic if you're shooting a larger caliber projectile that you expect to go out further. I actually switched this scope between multiple ARs in 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, and 2.23 Remington, and it works very well out to 700 or 800 yards. With the larger caliber, it'll go further, out to 1,000 or beyond. I also use this fixed power 10x magnification scope for these same cartridges. Pull the scope off, put it on the different rifles. I have red dots that go on ARs from pistol caliber to 22 caliber to 5.56. I'll just go through some examples. This is a 22 caliber AR-15, great for plinking, paired with a low power variable optic. Great for plinking from, basically 0 feet out to 100 yards. This optic gets me where I want to go. Barrels for a 22 are fairly inexpensive. Bolt carrier groups are fairly inexpensive. None of the hardware needs to be particularly expensive or robust. This is a high-end 6.5 Creedmoor caliber AR-10. Large frame AR, expensive bolt carrier group, expensive barrel, long barrel, high power, expensive optic. All pairs well for precision shooting out to 1,000 yards and beyond. This is a very low-end AR, mainly some cheap components that I threw together. Chambered in 223 Remington, 5.56 actually. And I have a low power, 1 power holographic sight on it. Works very well for plinking, very reliable, nothing particularly expensive. The optic costs more or as much as the entire rifle itself, but you get cheaper red dot optics. And this pairs very well. I wouldn't put a precision scope on here because, quite frankly, this rifle is probably not accurate enough to make use of that precision scope. This is another 5.56 AR-15. Much higher end barrel, much higher end components, trigger, bolt carrier group. And what I have on it right now is a 10 power optic. It works very well for shooting this out to 600 yards. I could put a red dot on it, still make very good use of it, but it's a little more precise, so a little higher optic helps. When you first start planning a build, think about your application. Are you going to shoot short distances, indoor ranges with caliber restrictions? You're going to hunt with it, where there may also be caliber restrictions. Are you going to shoot long range, precision? Maybe short range, more rapid fire, or just plinking? And choose a caliber that meets your needs. That caliber will dictate a lot of the components you put in the rifle. You don't necessarily want to put really high-end components into, say, a pistol caliber rifle. It's probably not going to be as accurate at any distance as you would want it to be. Similarly, if you're going to build a long-range precision rifle, you probably don't want to put low-end components in it. You won't get the accuracy out of it that you would like. Also consider the optic that pairs well with your application and caliber. Is it going to be a low magnification red dot, a low variable magnification optic, a fixed power scope, a high power variable magnification scope? Pair the scope with your application and caliber, and then start to plan your build out. Again, you probably don't want high components for, say, a 22 long rifle or a pistol caliber. You may or may not want high-end components for a 5.56. If you're shooting bulk ammo, you probably don't need high-end components because you're never going to get the accuracy that the rifle is capable of with the ammunition you're using. And again, if you're doing a precision rifle, you probably want to get more high-end components. The caliber will dictate a lot of the things like frame size, barrel length, and then your application will dictate things like the optic and ultimately the components that you select for that rifle. If you enjoyed this video, please like it in YouTube and subscribe to my channel so you can see more of my videos. Thank you for watching.